Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to GameHounds podcast. You will notice we are one podcast host short. So I forgot that Nick was going to be out of town last week. So I didn't mention that we were having no show this week. He's in LA, I think. Maybe. I think he complained about trying to find parking in LA. So I'm thinking it's LA. But there's so much to talk about. And when was the last time you and I had just some private time together? So I'm just going to do this show. I prepped for it. I completely prepped for this whole show and just figure might as well go on with it. So we got in the chat room here. Yeah, this is the GameHounds podcast. We're going to go through the whole thing like I would normally do it, except minus Nick. Goalie would probably say that that's a good thing. Who knows? Goalie might be listening. If Goalie is listening, he's more than welcome to join in. AC Wraith, if you're in here, you want to be my second. Hey, you are in here. If you want to be my second for today, feel free. I will send you a link. We could talk about this together. You don't even have to be have a camera on you if you don't feel like it. We could just talk. This is a very loosey-goosey show, but I didn't want to. There's just so much to talk about this week, and I couldn't not. How am I feeling from last week? I'm feeling much better. I mean, I felt pretty good last week, but it's kind of funny that the COVID brain is going away slowly. The thing that's not going away slowly is the cough. It's not a very bad cough. It's a mostly unproductive cough. When I do cough or, sniff, there's just this chunk of goo that comes out, and that's it for many hours. But then all of a sudden you start to talk or say something and you've got the frog in your throat and it's, that reaccumulated. I can see how this might be a very, very, very difficult thing for people that are immunocompromised, or more so if they had compromised lungs or heart function, simply because the cough does not go away. It's been, 14 days. It's 14 days from the moment that I first started feeling a little like something in my throat. And the cough came, and it has been exactly the same for 14 days. It's not any better. It's not any worse. It's the same. So I see why this was such a deadly thing for, people with problems breathing. What do we got in the chat room going? AC Ray says, my housemate is roughly 10 feet away with a loud phone, and a bathroom is 10 feet in the other direction. The location is not podcast friendly. I get it. So, I guess we'll just start the regular show, and we're just going to go through everything pretty quickly. It's going to be a short show because it's not going to be half of it is literally you notice what's not here. Half of us is missing. Half of us are missing. So half, that would be one. Half of us is missing. So might as well hit the show. Anybody have any questions before we start the show? And for realsies, if you want to, please, if you're watching now, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Twitch, like and subscribe. It absolutely helps us. The more people that watch, the more people that like us, the better easier it is for people to find us. Speaking of which, I'm sorry I have to do this, but because I don't have Nick around to cover for me, I've got to do some fancy footwork over here with Twitch and making sure that the tags are all right, because tags are important with Twitch. You don't have them right and shit goes bad. It's really hard to fix them. Please stop doing pop-ups, Twitch. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty casual show for the most part. Let's see. We got a stream manager, and we're going to make sure that we've got us in the right place. No, it's not Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. That was last week. The category is talk shows, podcasts. In audience is everyone, sure. Tags is none of those. Sorry. This is a thing that I've got to do. All right, and we're done. Cool. Now we're actually positive, like correctly categorized. All right, so let me start the show. Just to give you a heads up, we're going to be doing one review of a game, one review of a show that was recommended by one of you, and I binge watched it yesterday. And I'll give you my opinion, and you may disagree. And then we'll hit some news, including the Game Awards. I hope you were with us for the Game Awards, because that shit got weird fast. We'll talk about it in a second. Let's start the show so actually I can do a podcast. All right. And mics are hot.
This podcast discusses video games, modern culture, and technology, and these podcasters are big fat potty mouths. If you're younger than 18 or are easily offended, please stop this podcast now. Oh, and your mom says to take out the trash and do your homework.
Hello and welcome to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 662. We're recording this show on Sunday, December 11th, 2022. I'm Edie Sellers, and with me is absolutely no one. Yes, I am doing a full show solo. For the first time in 13 years, someone is doing a solo show. I've never done a solo show the entire time I've been here. Nick didn't do one. Hawks didn't do one. Commander Tim didn't do one. Goalie didn't do a solo show. Nobody's done a full show solo. And Nick is out of town. I forgot last week that Nick had said that we were not having a show this week. So we didn't mention it on the show. I forgot until like 10 seconds before we were supposed to go live. I'd already prepped the show for myself. Thought, you know what? It's almost a new year. Why not? Let's try to do a solo show. This would have been way too intimidating for me a decade ago. Now, I don't care so much. How are you? How's things? How was your week? I'm Edie Sellers. If you are just joining us in the live chat, we do have the live chat up and running. Got AC Wraith in here and a few more people. If you are in, hey, Hershey Health, how you doing? This is very much a casual show by comparison to former shows with only one host, but we'll be talking about stuff. So of course, I haven't done the banners that I need to do, so I'm going to have to be talking and writing at the same time. But we got a couple of reviews. The first one is a game that Nick and I played on the show, live streamed last week. And Lator. There we go. And the other one is a television show that was recommended to me by a listener, like somebody was in the chat room last week. And I binge watched it yesterday. So we'll talk about that. So first, the reviews. What have I been playing? I haven't been playing much simply because Christmas and, other stuff, but, and work. But last week, Nick and I were supposed to play Think of the Children together because, we make such great parents in the past. If you don't know, Nick and I abandoned our child. By the way, Nick and I are not in a relationship, but we had a child in Fable 2, Fable 3, Fable 3, Fable 2. I forget which Fable. The one where you could have the kid together with another partner. And Nick and I inadvertently abandoned it in the gates of hell in the netherworld, and couldn't get it back. So we don't have great history with children together. But we decided to play Think of the Children, and once we got in, we realized it does not have multiplayer. It has couch co-op, but it doesn't have multiplayer, which seems ludicrous. Why wouldn't you have networked multiplayer for a game that is really best played together? But oh well, we couldn't play it together. So Nick recommended to me Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. And if you're not familiar with this game, it's actually on Game Pass, which is one of the big reasons why we wanted to do it. It is a game that you have two sides. It's just a field, um, and you have a choice of you have a number of an amount of coins, and you can only have 20 players on your side, and you have to create an army. And the other person playing also creates an army, but you have a wide array of uh, units that you can create. And we played a lot of it. I did not think that I would enjoy it. It took a while for me to figure it out, but once I figured it out, it was like, this is such a genius idea. Why haven't more people done this? It's such a great idea. And you can have multiple different uh, 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 layouts. You can be in a city. We only played on the field, but we had a great night putting Vikings against vampires and peasants, an army of peasants against a single pirate queen. So it's like it's good, evil. The whole basis of it is really just lining things up and seeing comparing them each out together. And it's hilarious to watch them because they kind of ragdoll a little bit. As you can see on the screen, you can't see it if you're listening on the podcast, but as you can see on the screen, having people shoot, I don't know what those are. Are they riflemen? Oh, yeah, some of them are great. So it's a lot of fun to watch and to see how things go down. But we had a great time, a surprisingly good time for a very simple concept, but done really, really well. So, yeah, thank you for putting the link on there, AC Wraith. The Think of the Children, the Stream Remote Play Together feature. Yeah, that's not that's the Think of the Children link to Remote Play Together, but that remote playing together is not a substitute. It really isn't. Um, but if you are interested in this game, I highly recommend. It is just stupid, silly fun. Even I would imagine even single player because you're just putting things together. Ninjas versus pirates. I think that's what we're watching in this case. Oh no, those are Viking berserkers. And you can change the way that they're lined up. You can put them a straight line facing each other. You can put it a horizontal line so it's all one at a time and they move forward until they get into range, which is what we're seeing on the screen now. And configuration absolutely matters. Nick and I put a lot of things together saying, well, what if we do it this configuration? What if we do it in that configuration? It absolutely changes the whole way that the game is played or the whole results. So we had a freaking tastic time. Fantastic time. If you haven't played this, it is on Game Pass. It's available on PC, which is how we played it. I think it is also a console game. Chat room, is it a console game? I can't remember. But yeah, I can see this even being fun single player because who doesn't want to fight, angels versus devils, or pirates versus ninjas, or, tons of other things. Riflemen against Viking berserkers. It's just a mix and match of all of the fights. All those, like, you sit around and you go, what would happen if an angel and a devil got into a fight? Now you know. You could literally prove it. And it's fun to watch the actual battles themselves, because there's a certain level of ragdoll element to it that it takes itself seriously, but not too seriously. So it's kind of fun to watch. Especially I guess it's like over the shoulder third person, as you can watch individual units. But yeah, it's totally awesome. So highly recommend, especially if you are in the same situation that we were in, where it was just, I have no idea what to play at this point. Pull up Tabs, totally accurate battle simulator, and give it a shot. It downloads really fast on top of that. So even if one of you or even both of you don't have it, it doesn't take long. If you want to watch the stream, the stream is around. We didn't understand Steam's remote play together feature. We didn't want to deal with the complications of trying to figure it out. We just wanted to play a game. That's all we wanted to do. We wanted to make a nice casual night without having to do a bunch of reading. That's all. That's all. Sometimes you have patience for that shit. Sometimes you don't. And that night, no patience for that shit. We may go back to it with the remote play feature once I figure it out, because you know Nick. Nick doesn't fucking read. I love him to death. Nick has zero fucks for reading shit and instructions. If it's not easy, he won't do it. And it's so sad because he's the young one. He's the one that technically I should be the Luddite who doesn't want to read shit. And Nick should be the one that wants to be involved in all that. But no, Nick is old before his years. If you're listening, Nick, you're called out. You're an old man. Thank you for the link to Nick and Edie Play Tabs. So the other review that I want to give is the TV show. That was recommended. Actually, really, it's a Netflix show, a Netflix series recommended to me by AC Wraith last week. He just mentioned it in passing, and I was like between shows and thought, I'm gonna just do it. It was recommended to me. It's like, AC Wraith seemed to like it, so I'll do it. Wednesday on Netflix. I yesterday just was like, kind of want to watch something, but I don't want to get into a K-drama or anything like that. So I'm like, I'll see what an episode of Wednesday is like. Binge watched the whole thing until 1:30 this morning. It is that good. I don't know if I particularly agree with all the casting decisions. I think Morticia and Gomez, I don't want to say completely miscast, because they really play a very small role in the show. Like even Lurch only has a grand total of like 45 seconds in the entire, 10 episode series. But I think in general, it is a great, great show. It did not keep me guessing until the end, because it has to do with a mystery. But basically, the setup is that Wednesday has been kicked out of multiple normie schools for being Wednesday, and is sent to a boarding school that was both Morticia's and Gomez's alma mater when they were kids, called Nevermore Academy. And which is specifically created for not normal. Kids with like, who are vampires or werewolves or whatever, that have special powers, that are special children. And the it does a really, really, really good job of setting up a mystery that starts to happen that is surrounding essentially Wednesday, that has to do with Wednesday showing up in this academy, and also with family history of the Adams. There's a bunch of it is, I believe, produced by Tim Burton. So it doesn't feel very much like a Tim Burton show. It's not quite so macabre and weird. It's kind of like if Tim Burton, did YA shows. And it's definitely a young adult show. It's about high school kids. At the same time, it is totally entertaining. And the sets are amazing. Oh my God, the sets are so good. And yeah, if you have not watched Wednesday, it is fantastic. I've only felt the need to forward through one episode, one small part of an episode, which was a dance scene, and I don't do dance scenes. Sorry, unless there's something really specifically important, I don't do dance scenes. But it's a good show. If you haven't picked it up, if you haven't watched it, I think that you are missing something right now. And I know it's a little late because you get the feeling that this very much might be a show that would be better for Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, for Halloween. But it's, no matter what, it's still good. It's a bit like Hogwarts, like Harry Potter meets the Addams Family. And there are a bunch of little Easter eggs, and you will see them, to the Addams Family TV show. Even though parts of the Addams Family TV show are not used in the show, there's a little tip of the hat homage to it. Very, very good. And if you don't want to be Wednesday Addams when you start watching the show, you will want to be Wednesday Addams by the time you're finished with the show, because she is a serious badass. Yeah, really, really good. So thanks, AC Wraith, for convincing me to watch the show. And fuck you for wrecking my Saturday. I could have probably been better used being more productive doing something else. So chaos. Nick is not late. There is no Nick today. I am soloing this show for the first time. Nobody's ever soloed GameHounds before. If you want to jump on, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, we got no Nick today. AC Ray says he binged it as well. Fuck yeah. This is super binge worthy. This has end of episode cliffhangers that kind of propel you to want to watch the next episode. Really well done, to the point of where it's kind of almost as good as K-dramas, and K-dramas have made that into a fucking art form. There's something about K-dramas. They always drop something just at the end. You're like, oh, I gotta watch the next episode. It's dangerously addictive that way. AC Ray says the music was okay, but I totally wanted the song in places, especially when the snaps happened. Shh, don't wreck it for people. Yeah, they did make it an Easter egg, and I'm perfectly okay with that. When you're going for something that obvious and you turn it into an Easter egg, I give you mad props for that. And yeah. Got rid of the dead weight. Nick's not dead weight. He's ballast. He keeps the whole thing afloat. Trust me. You have no idea. The GameHounds will go far now. Thank you for thinking that, but no. Hey, nobody has noticed, or maybe I missed it. Have you noticed that is not your camera? Yes, my hair is blue. I dyed my hair blue. This is what happens when you are stuck in a house for 10 days uh, because you're in quarantine, and Bevmo will deliver. Yes. I made a delivery from Bevmo, put my ID in an envelope, told the driver, "My ID's in an envelope taped to the window, can't come to the door." I didn't tell him why. Just assumed that he figured that shit out. And, I get a little bleep on my phone saying, "Your order's been delivered." I open up the front door, and there is a case of alcohol. And yes, we absolutely imbibed, and yes, we absolutely dyed my hair blue. 'Cause, that's what happens. COVID plus alcohol plus dye equals blue hair. Without Nick, this would be the Soju Bomb show. No, it couldn't be the Soju Bomb show because I have to keep my head a little screwed on properly. I can't get drunk when I'm soloing. I wish I could talk about Anno 1800. Is that the new one that just came out? Because I played Anno. Was it Anno 1800 that I played? It was a free game from Ubisoft quite some time ago. And I played a lot of it. Enough where I had to walk away from it. It kind of consumed me. But yeah, in general, the Anno games are really good. Hail whiskey. Yeah, in fact, tonight, neighbor is coming over for like my big coming out party. Because yesterday was the first full day that I could have. I could be without be out of quarantine. So tonight he's going to come over. We're going to sit on our porch in the rain and drink Irish coffee. Because why not? Thank you for the comment. It is new to Steam, exclusive was exclusive to Epic and Ubisoft. Yeah, I played it when it was Epic and Ubisoft. It's a really good game. It's really fucking addictive. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. And then it's got like this whole element of like going out into the world and exploring and stuff. That's also really compelling. When you get bored of building shit, then they throw in this whole other like exploration part. It has 4 season passes. It does. Interesting. I didn't know. Any excuse to booze up. Nah, I don't need an excuse to booze up. That's the best thing about boozing up that's the best thing about being a grown up. You do not need an excuse to booze up, especially when you live alone now. Yes, it is dangerous on your time. It very much is. It is one of those games you like fire up and then like 10 minutes later you look up and check your clock and you're like, it's 1:30 in the morning. How did that happen? Anno 1800 was free from April 12th to April 19th on Ubisoft Connect and Epic Game Store. I want to say I played it last year. I played it in. Let's see. I think I played it in 2020 or maybe 20. No, I definitely played it in 2020 because I remember I played it on, I don't know, this is a weird way to remember time. So behind me, you can't really see it, but right there is my dining room table. When I first started my job at the beginning of the pandemic, I was seated at this end of the table. And then they finally sent me dual screen, so I had to move onto that side of the table. And I remember playing it after work, and I was on this side of the table. So I think it was in 2019. The way you remember things in the pandemic. AC knows everything. He does. He absolutely does. So yeah, if you haven't watched Wednesday, watch Wednesday. So that being said, because there is way too much not to talk about, and I'm going to have to do a lot of my like research, not research, but like it's going to be slower because I'm going to have to pull up things Gonna be a lot more conversational because I'm gonna have to look shit up while we're talking because I don't have Nick to kind of cover for me. Let's hit the news. This is the GameHounds news, the news, use, and commentary of the week in gaming with Gamer Edie and Gamer Edie. Nobody else, just me. And our first item is, okay, so let's see. Let's talk about the Game Awards. We had some winners, we had some losers, some really surprising stuff, and some stuff that was also surprisingly missing, and then some stuff that was very surprising that actually showed up. First off, let's talk about our winners. All right, so Game of the Year and Best Game Direction were the big surprises to me. If you were not watching the stream with me, we watched a watch party. There was a general consensus that God of War Ragnarok was going to take it all because God of War Ragnarok got what? It got best narrative. It got best score and music. It got best audio design. It got best performance with Christopher Judge. It got what else? Best action adventure. It got what else? I'm going through the whole. It's a very long list. Innovation in accessibility. It got. Yeah. So all of those. I mean, it took it up into that last, couple of awards with game direction and game of the year. I think that odds on favorite were God of War because almost in every category that, with the exception of art direction, every category where God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring had faced off, God of War Ragnarok had won. And then came the final two categories where Elden Ring took not only best game direction. At that point, I thought, okay, they're going to split it. Elden Ring was going to get best game direction. God of War was going to get game of the year. I figured absolutely that was going to happen. I figured that was going to happen before the show even started. Elden Ring won game of the year. So I think that surprised a lot because Elden Ring, by comparison, other than game of the year and best game direction, up until that point, it had won best art direction. What else? It had won best role-playing game. And I believe that is it. That's all it had won. That's all it had won. So when you compare to what Ragnarok was doing that by that point in the night, it seemed pretty obvious what was going to get game of the year, and yet it did not. But there were a ton of announcements of games that came as a super big surprise. One of them, the biggest one I think of all was the Death Stranding 2, which surprised kind of nobody, but at the same time it was kind of neat to see. And Kojima-san being there and Al Pacino being there. Christopher Judge's announcement was hilarious because it just went on. It was a bit like Elden Ring, very, very long and kind of freeform. Yeah, it went on for a while, but the whole night in general went really well. Notably absent though, and I didn't notice this until I was reading some articles about the Game Awards after the fact. There was not really anything that was noted for Xbox games. And there were a lot of questions about why was there not as big a presence as PlayStation? Because PlayStation had several PlayStation exclusives, Final Fantasy, Death Stranding, a bunch of PlayStation exclusives that were announced or at least got a trailer during the show. And Phil Spencer has come out and said that that was not necessarily intentional, but Aaron Greenberg actually came out on Twitter to address a bunch of the questions about why there was not a very big Xbox exclusives presence at the Game Awards. And he said, quote, "We've planned to show and share about an incredibly exciting year ahead for 2023. Appreciate folks are eager to learn and see more. Timing is always the key, but don't worry, you will not have to wait too long for what's next from us." So essentially, he's saying they didn't want to participate in the Game Awards, which is interesting, an interesting marketing choice. And I don't really quite understand it, because maybe it was that because they didn't want to be overshadowed by anything that PlayStation did. So they just didn't participate and are going to come out later with all their own stuff. So nobody can say, "Oh, but yeah, Death Stranding." I guess I understand that point, and it may be that they're not ready to announce, and that's fine. I can't believe that they wouldn't be ready to announce anything. Armored Core 6 was another biggie. Yeah, that's another huge one. But I think it's kind of funny, and maybe I'm going out on a very deep limb here. With the death of E3, it wasn't just the death of E3 being I should say, death of E3 due to a pandemic. Like, it was always kind of holding on to, this is an important week for people, for companies to make announcements. Even if it isn't like officially at E3, you kind of got to make your big announcements during that week. The pandemic upended that. And I think Xbox and Microsoft are trying to, are starting to question whether it's worthwhile to announce stuff at the same time. Maybe it's worthwhile to announce at a totally different time after everybody else announced something, so you get the last word. You're the thing on everybody's mind as they go into Christmas. Now, that being said, it is a bit late for this to happen for Christmas, because even though these games aren't coming out until 2023, maybe even 2024, you still want to have people buying your console. And this is the big time to buy consoles for everybody that doesn't have a next-gen console, because this year they're more on shelves than they have been in the past. And this year, maybe there's a little bit less money to spread around, but it's always a big time to buy consoles as gifts, or even for yourself with gift cards that are given to you. So maybe we'll see how it plays out. It depends on when they said, and when Aaron Greenberg says, what is it? Let's see. We plan to show and share incredibly exciting ahead. Appreciate folks who are eager to see. Timing is always key, but don't worry, you will not have to wait too long for what's next for us. Now, we know of already exclusives that they're getting next year, like Starfield and Redfall and all those others. But yeah, it's a interesting choice, and I'm curious to know if this is a marketing choice, tactical marketing choice, or if it is, we don't know what we're going to talk about yet. It could be the remnants of the pandemic. Remember, we're going to be feeling the whole pandemic global shutdown for at least another year, maybe 2 years. We're going to be feeling the repercussions from that. So I don't know. I'm surprised that the gaming has bounced back as fast as it has. It shouldn't have. For all intents and purposes, it had no right bouncing back as fast as it did. And I was really glad at the Game Awards. Who was it? It was, I believe it was was it one of the God of War guys? No, it was, who was it that actually mentioned the facility staff in his thank yous for his Game Awards? Because he said, because these guys were able to pivot so quickly and get us up and running when the pandemic hit and we needed to all work from home. And actually thanked the facilities guys. I can't remember who did that. That guy deserves a fucking award for thanking the facilities people. There really needs to be, we have Secretary's Day, we have Boss's Day, we have every day for every profession. You know what we need? Fucking Facility Guys Day. The guy that just makes the AV equipment fucking work. The guy that makes sure that your computer is not broken or that you've got all the right cables when it gets sent to you because you had to pivot to work from home because you're now quarantined because you have COVID. December 22, basically BioShock. Oh, what is this? Oh, yeah. Former team members criticized BioShock creator Ken Levine's inability to actually release a game. Yeah, he's kind of notorious for that. But apparently he's got that new game coming out. I forget what it's called. AC Wraith Day. Sweetie, every Sunday at 2:00 is AC Wraith Day. Don't you let anybody tell you anything other. Old team got disbanded, then he made the same game with a different team. Yeah. So that's the first thing I want to talk about with the Game Awards. In general, I agreed with most of them. I had a great time watching it with you guys, especially trying to predict winners. Like Gorilla taking, who wants to bet? Is it going to be God of War or is it going to be Elden Ring? There were a number of surprises, but all of them I think were pleasant surprises. Kirby winning over a bunch of other stuff that. What did Kirby win again? I have to go back. Stand by. I will tell you. No, look there. Look here. Kirby. What did Kirby win? Kirby won Best Family Game over Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, Mario and Rabbids Spark of Hope, Nintendo Switch Sports, and Splatoon 3. All of those guys, with the exception of, I think, Lego, I think all of them actually won a different award. Like, Mario Rabbids got Best Sim Strategy Game. There was, let's see, Splatoon won Best Multiplayer. I don't think Nintendo Switch Sports won anything. And what else? I don't think Lego won anything, and I don't think Nintendo Switch Sports, because I think that was the only category that they were nominated for. But in general, I think as far as the event itself, it went incredibly smooth, with possible exception of Christopher Judge's acceptance saga, the DLC, the long version. Yeah, that was a little of a, I would call it a road bump. A speed bump. I really wouldn't call it like a problem. They got through it. They played him off. It took them a while for them to actually yoink him from the stage, but eventually he yoinked. And in general, everybody else, when they started to get played off, they left. And it was all going good. And you could almost see on Keely's face, you could almost see like the stress, like starting to come off of him. Like, we did it. It was nearly perfect. And then at the very last minute, the kid showed up. Yeah, that kid showed up. And when we were watching the stream, I remember we were all a little confused, like, wait a minute, was that kid? And even when the actual recipients were accepting, I was thinking, did one of them bring their kid up with them? Because they just kind of stood there and they didn't really acknowledge him. And looking back, I understand now why. He just jumped up. I opined that he was just a kid that like jumped up from the audience, and that's exactly what he did. Apparently, this kid is a goddamn wackadoo. So, he jumped up, and mentioned something about Bill Clinton, uh, with and Judaism. And a bunch of people are like, "Oop, there's a weird anti-Semitic dog whistle kind of going on." But bottom line, kid's name is he's 15. He is named Matan Even. He is a quote unquote Jewish prankster. He names himself a Jewish prankster. This is not the first time that he has done this. He went to BlizzCon during a Q&A session that was being live streamed at BlizzCon, and stood up and demanded and yelled "Free Hong Kong." He went to and bombed a NBA game at some point, and ended up being on InfoWars because of it. He apparently is someone who likes to be a prankster. Uh, you could see on Keely's face at the end of the show, he was not happy. He was absolutely not happy that his nearly perfect show was wrecked by this fucking kid. Well, it was announced that this fucking kid got arrested. So, and then later he tweeted, so they were assuming that he was released. But if he wanted notoriety beyond just, like that kid at the NBA game, he's got it. It does point up a couple of things. One, who the fuck is this kid's parents? Two, is Keely going to sue him? Because that's absolutely a fucking possibility. Three, what kind of security does the Game Awards have? Because clearly it's none. When you can see when they pan to the nominees, you can actually see the kid just a few rows back. So he has a 15-year-old kid who doesn't know anything about anybody, I mean, not connection to anybody, managed to get that far up close to the nominees, and in at an award ceremony. Given the nature of games, and how in some cases, game makers far more than like movie makers. Like you think about the Academy Awards. Academy Awards, their security is no joke. No fucking joke. You don't get anywhere near the Academy Awards unless you have been vetted and cleared and had an invite. And you kind of gotta know somebody. Game Awards, apparently that's not the issue. And in addition, you can get really close to these game makers. And when it comes to movies, I don't know of very many actors or, filmmakers or even like sound guys that have had their lives physically threatened as much as just rank and file QA testers for video games. I think that this is the last games show, and arguably it may very well be any kind of game, like major game show, that you will see the public just having access to it, to this thing. They're not going to be able to just like sell tickets and buy tickets or offer tickets to like fans or PlayStation giveaway tickets to the Game Awards. I don't think we're going to be seeing that anymore. And if they do, it's going to be probably, because I know that particular auditorium they hold it in, there is a balcony. They might put people up in the balcony, but the floor is only going to be industry professionals. It's not going to be the general public. That is, I would hope that that never happens again, because that should absolutely be a wake up call. Because when you get, it hasn't happened yet, but it's bound to happen sometime, that somebody that has, that threatens death or destruction or bombing or, assault on a gaming developer of any stripe is going to make good on the threat. And what better place to do it than live on the Game Awards? Sorry, I'm gonna have to turn on the light. It's getting dark in here because the storms are moving in. What better place to do it? This is hopefully going to be the very end of mumble Bill Clinton. Yeah, kind of. This is going to be the end of that, I hope. This was a warning alarm, should be a warning alarm bell for all events with developers. And that is a fucking shame. Because one of the things I love about the gaming industry, and especially over the past 12 years, is that I've had access. I've hung out with, I haven't hung out, but like I've seen Ken Levine on the floor and laughed with him and just, chatted with him on the floor of PAX in Boston. I've had drinks with Todd Howard and just been able to just relax around these people. Now they're always on because, it's games. It's a convention. But at the same time, there's an element of fun, like fans and makers can actually connect. And I think that this is the moment that is going to stand as the end of that. And thank you, you little obnoxious fuck, for doing it. I hope you're proud of yourself. And where is this kid's parents? That's what I want to know. Yeah. Yeah, the kid who crashed the Game Awards was on InfoWars when he was 12. Clearly his parents must be just as big a whackadoos as he is. If not, they're just utter jackasses. But yeah, thanks for wrecking it for everybody, you little fuck, and your stupid goddamn parents. Seriously? Snowflake. Snowflake. So that happened. Moving right along. Let's hit the next one. Here's an interesting thing. So I don't remember if we talked about it last week. My phone's alarm is going off to remind myself to post the fucking podcast. I know I'm doing the podcast. Goddamn phone. Last week, I don't know if we talked about it, that the FTC, U.S. Federal Trade Commission, did launch a full investigation of the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft. We kind of knew that was going to happen. But here's what's interesting is the reasons that the FTC cited. Let's see, did I get where is it? I did not. Did I not write the right? I didn't write a headline for this. Let me stand by. Let me create a quick banner. I thought I had written it, but I guess not. So the FTC, when they wrote out their explanation, their document accompanying their announcement that they were launching a full investigation into the antitrust investigation into the Microsoft Blizzard acquisition, the FTC cited in its complaint that Microsoft had, according to them, lied to the EU's regulatory body, their own regulatory body, regarding the future exclusivity of ZeniMax games when they acquired Bethesda. They said they pointed to the record of acquiring and using valuable game content. And this is a quote out of an article that was originally written by a investigative news agency, MLEX, and then later on also noted in an American trade magazine called Chasing Alpha. But the FTC pointed to Microsoft's record, quote unquote, record of acquiring and using valuable game content to suppress competition from rival consoles, including its acquisition of ZeniMax, parent company of Bethesda Softworks. Microsoft decided to make several Bethesda's titles, including Starfield and Redfall, Microsoft exclusives, despite assurances it had given to European antitrust authorities that it had no incentive to withhold games from rival consoles. Well, the antitrust regulatory body of the EU Commission actually they said, no, we never got that promise. In fact, quote, the Commission cleared the Microsoft ZeniMax transaction unconditionally. This is from a spokesperson from the EU Commission for Antitrust and Trade and Regulations. The Commission cleared the Microsoft ZeniMax transaction unconditionally, as it concluded the transaction would not raise competition concerns. Microsoft did not offer any commitments to the Commission. So I'm not really quite sure where the FTC thought that Microsoft had promised the EU anything. But even the EU says they didn't promise us anything. We approved it unconditionally. That didn't happen. It makes me wonder. Do I think that the FTC should investigate this? Absolutely. It needs to be cleared. It needs to be vetted. If the, like Live Nation / Ticketmaster thing is any indication, things need to be looked at before they're rubber stamped through. That's a thing. But it does concern me that the FTC cited something that didn't happen in its complaint. It means that either they're not doing their homework properly or they're unable to do their homework. They're incapable of it. And if they didn't do their homework properly, is it because of a lack of ability or a mistake, or is there something else going on? I mean, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. But when you get like a government agency, this is what they do. This is all they do. This is their jam. And they get something so terribly wrong, like not just a little wrong, like 100% wrong, where the EU has to kind of come out and make a statement going, yeah, that didn't happen. How was that mistake made? And why was that mistake made? Do I think that something nefarious might have happened? It had to do with a brown envelope stuffed in a newspaper and left on a, park bench? No, probably not. But possibly? How does an agency that's all they do, this is their thing, get that so wrong? And if so, if there is something nefarious going on, why did they make it so obvious? Like something that could actually, be proved wrong. It's not like the EU Commission doesn't have like a record that they could point to of things said and promises made. So I don't know. It just seems kind of weird that happened. Stephen Totilo, unused position. Thank you very much. I cannot link that because it's just, you're gonna have to look at that yourself. A letter from CEO Bobby Kotick regarding Activision's merger. FTC. There we go. Here's all the links you might need to see for all of that. Thank you, AC Wraith. But it is kind of weird. So hopefully Stephen Totilo isn't, whatever he said doesn't make me looking like an idiot. But this is just in my own head that it does strike me as odd that an FTC commission could get its facts so dead wrong in its complaint, especially about something this big like the merger. I hate to say this, but the EU is also with the EU, it's also entirely possible. This is from Vice. With the EU, it's also entirely possible that they had that on the table, just not officially, in which case your agency kind of should have found out it was never official, though. Very weird. Yeah. It wasn't, if it wasn't an official thing, then it shouldn't have been cited as being official. And maybe you might have mentioned it, that they had concerns and that their concerns, but they shouldn't have said that promises were made, because when the EU comes out and says, no, they weren't, then promises weren't made. I don't know. We'll see. This is going to, I am waiting standing on, very curious about what the FTC might say in response to this. And I am no fan, 100% fan of this acquisition, because I think this acquisition, Nick thinks it's bad for gaming. That's arguable. What has me concerned is this is bad for the lawsuits, for the workers who were abused by Bobby Kotick and pretty much everybody else in that company. That it's going to be much harder for any lawsuits to be brought against the company for that, including the government's own lawsuits. So I'm not a fan of this merger, to say the least. But at the same time, this is kind of weird. So my next item is, let's see, what have I got? Speaking of Microsoft and its machinations, because Microsoft it's not beneath them to do stuff on the down low. Is this a war? It is a fucking war. And Microsoft fired off, FTC might have fired off one missile, but the Microsoft decided to counter that missile with its own scuds, and announced this week that Microsoft has pledged, and actually beyond pledged, signed an agreement with Nintendo, entering into a 10-year commitment to bring Call of Duty games to Switch platforms, to Microsoft platforms, to Nintendo platforms, whether they be Switch or whatever the next platforms are, for 10 years. Now, that's PlayStation's and Sony's biggest complaint, and what they've based all of their arguments on is that Microsoft purchasing Activision would give Microsoft an illegal, unfair advantage, because Call of Duty makes up such a huge percentage of gaming that it could adversely affect the industry by Microsoft having an exclusive ownership if they decide to make that particular title exclusive. Microsoft, of course, fires a warning shot, fires a defensive shot, saying that Microsoft, this is Phil Spencer, who said Microsoft is committed to helping bring more games to more people, however they choose to play. So all of this was shared by Phil Spencer on Twitter. He did go into more detail about it in an interview in the Washington Post that you can look up. But Phil Spencer did reportedly say that, quote, the entire portfolio would still have to be looked at to see which titles can make it over to Switch. There's no set date for when Call of Duty would first arrive on Switch. So they're looking not only to do future games, but past games as well and port them over to Switch. Right now, the merger is set between Activision and Microsoft as June 2023. But Phil Spencer said, you can imagine if, and he means that deal, if it closed on that date, starting to do development work to make that happen would likely take a little bit of time. And when he says that, he means the porting Call of Duty games to Switch. The plan is eventually when a Call of Duty game launches for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, it would launch simultaneously for Switch as well. And they signed it. It wasn't just like a promise. It was a signed an agreement, signed a commitment that for 10 years that's going to happen. So it does kneecap the Sony argument a little bit. And Sony is, of course, now, and I haven't read that one, but the VG Charts has an article. Sony says Microsoft's Call of Duty with Nintendo is misleading. Well, of course they would. This is the second biggest global war going on right now, is between Sony and Microsoft over this acquisition. So speaking of Nintendo, let's see what else we got here. I know I have something really big about Nintendo, and I think it's at the very end of my notes. Oh yeah. Yeah. We have in recent days talked about how Nintendo tries to put itself out as the sweet and cuddly developer, the sweet and cuddly platform that's good for families, and they're not. In fact, they're kind of bigger assholes than everybody else. They just, wrap it up in squishy pink stuff. Well, if you need any more proof, Nintendo this week, copyright struck again an innocent party. This innocent party is a YouTuber called Did You Know Gaming. And Did You Know Gaming since 2012 has been doing documentaries about like Easter eggs and little known facts about the gaming industry. They make documentaries. For all intents and purposes, they're documentaries about stuff in the past, history, video game history. Copyright struck are they over a recent video that they did that was titled Lost, Zelda game for Nintendo DS, Heroes of Hyrule, featuring at Zeltic. And it was about how Retro Studios had pitched a project 20 years ago that had ultimately been rejected. It's essentially a documentary about video game trivia, Zelda trivia. But and Did You Know Gaming is not like this small channel. They have had collaborations with Jacksepticeye and Cadarius, Cad Icarus and Ergoraptor of Game Grumps. And it was, they've been around 2012, a decade doing these kinds of historical documentaries. Nintendo filed a copyright strike on Did You Know Gaming and had that removed, which is kind of a big deal because if you remember, Copyright strikes are when you're struck to have something removed, you get 3 of those. If you get a third one, your channel is shut down permanently. It's not like the videos go away and that's it. 3 strikes, your channel is deleted by YouTube. And as we all know, YouTube's copyright guys are, it's an algorithm and they're not very helpful, even to really, really big companies like Bungie that had a copyright strikes put on it for its own games by somebody faking being being Bungie. They had to actually go to court to have that reversed. From somebody who was literally easy to see they were faking it. But Google and YouTube, they don't give a shit. They really, really don't. So yeah, and this is not the first time that that Nintendo has done this. Nintendo has done this to other channels, and like not just one video, but they will like carpet bomb an entire channel that has been around for a while for Nintendo Music, which is why I am not showing anything on here and will never on this show will never show any Nintendo game ever on this, like even as like background play as we are talking about it, because I just not going to take that chance because Nintendo carpet bombs. There was one guy who he had he had essentially was archiving Nintendo music. And, like it said, that this is a YouTube archive of video game music. Nintendo filed all at once 1,300 copyright strikes on this one guy all at once. 3 of them take your show down. Delete your channel. And they filed 1,300 in one fell swoop. That is like a laser from space just vaporizing your channel. So, and this latest one, these are guys that make, like, this is about a documentary about something that happened 20 years ago. So, Nintendo, not your friends. And I would argue that if you are ever thinking of streaming anything anywhere with a Nintendo game, you might want to rethink. Because that's some scary stuff, especially if you actually care about your channel. Let's see. Incidentally, I'm going to just throw this out there for all of you listening. If we ever get copyright struck to be taken down, like, because that could absolutely happen, since we do show games in the background when we're talking about games, when we're reviewing games, we will show them in the background. If we ever get copyright, and right now somebody's trying to like demonetize us because we're using copyrighted music. We're not using copyrighted music. They've misidentified the theme song of this show. So every single episode, we're getting a demonetization because of the music. And I am appealing every single one of them, but still the appeals process is not very good. So essentially they're demonetizing us for our theme song that we've had for 12 years. And yes, I have purchased the rights for it. I purchased the rights for it 13 years ago. 14 years ago, something like that. 14 years ago. I purchased copyrights for that. So I have every right to use it. But if we ever do get demonetized for any reason, please look up my personal actually, we have a whole other account called GameHounds. Not the GameHounds or GameHounds Vids. It's GameHounds. We put a couple of videos up there years ago. We stopped using that. I forgot there was a really good technological reason why we couldn't use that channel, but that channel does exist. It doesn't get used for anything. But if we disappear off of here, I will transfer as much as I possibly can over to that channel, and we will continue there. Just so you know, look up GameHounds. Also, you know where we'll like announce where we're gonna be? We're gonna be announcing where we're gonna be in our Discord. They're not gonna take our Discord down. There's our Discord. Feel free to join it. Yes, we do talk about stuff. When I go live doing like watch parties or games, we absolutely do it there. In fact, I don't know what I'm gonna do tonight. I think I'm gonna play something, but I'm not quite sure. Debatable about what we're gonna play. But yeah, we will absolutely have stuff there. So please feel free to join it. In the chat room, thank you for the link on the Patreon. Yeah, and we're also patron supported. If you are liking what you see, one, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. But we only ask for $1 a month to support this show. We're not looking to get rich. We're just looking to offset costs for a bunch of different services because now everything is a service. Everything's got a fucking subscription attached to it. So trying to offset those costs. Yeah, there is a and you'll know it because it's got our logo on it, GameHounds. There is a GameHounds YouTube channel that does not get used. I think it's got a couple of things on it from like years and years and years ago, but it hasn't been what we connected to do the video shows. There was a reason for it. It had to do with StreamYard in the early days that I couldn't connect to it, but now I can. I could start doing it there, but I would rather just keep that channel in, like in spare. Just in case. Thank you for the link on that. Yeah, Nintendo music YouTuber who received 4,000 copyright strikes. 3 is enough, dudes. You don't need to 4,000 copyright strike somebody. For somebody who's just trying to archive your fucking music. Reactors have to list their alternate channels all the time. Yeah. Yep. Makes sense that you just have to stay ahead of the fuzz. That's what you got to do. Hopefully we will never have that issue, but all it takes is one person lying that they have copyright. No, and then you could take down the show anytime. Don't want that to happen. Please don't do that. But it could happen. Next item. I have to move back and forth to stuff because Nick's not around to cover me. Let's see. Diablo 4. If you are at all interested in Diablo 4, first off, it's coming out in June. It was announced at the Game Awards. I believe that's where it was announced for its release date. But that release date got a lot of attention, and it's not all good. Former Diablo developers and current Diablo developers that are going anonymous are saying that that date, I think it was June 6th. June 6th was the announced date. That first off, in order for Diablo 4 to make that Diablo or that June 6th release date, that the crunch is going to be like no joke. That they're not prepared for a June 6th release, but Blizzard was uninterested in extending and delaying the game yet again. So they announced this June 6th date, knowing that this is going to probably destroy many of their people. And a number of current and former Blizzard employees who have worked on this project specifically also described how many of the delays that happened on this game that are previous to this one, were really about a fucked up management of this game. This game is coming in hot and heavy with just Anthem fumes rolling off of it. You can smell the Anthem on it. So, they've already had to push back the game multiple times, and they've already been crunching on this game. Now, Activision Blizzard, according to these developers, isn't mandating the crunch at the moment, but it is right now incentivizing the crunch. How are they incentivizing it, you ask? $25 DoorDash credits if you work more than 10 hours a day. On days that you work more than 10 hours a day. Isn't that nice? $25 DoorDash credit. Some developers said that there's a stock bonus plan for people who finish the game and stay with the company for at least a year afterwards, which means it's not really an incentive to crunch at the moment. It's just an incentive to be destroyed and then stick around for a year so it makes Blizzard look good. Like, when you leave, it's not because we crunched you. Anywhere from $5,000 for entry-level employees to $50,000 for senior-level developers. We will destroy your life, and then you will have to stick around for a year so that nobody thinks that we were the ones that destroyed your life for $50,000. $50,000 may sound like a lot to you. It is nothing compared to the cost of a child support because your wife or your husband is going to fucking divorce you because your life is so awful. That doesn't pay for hardly any of the stuff that you would need to compensate to make up for being crunched the way that they're being crunched, even right now, but that how they're definitely know they're going to have to be crunched in order to now hit that June 6th date that Blizzard won't change. They won't change it, like I said, because they've already had delays. And the reasons why they have had these delays have had nothing to do with the people that are being crunched right now. First reason, according to these current and former employees and developers working on Diablo 4, Luis Barriga and Jesse McCree. You will know those names because they were part of the Cosby crew who lost their jobs because of, harassment and assault. They were fired in August. They were both noted as being particularly egregious offenders in the whole gender discrimination lawsuits against Blizzard. These guys, apparently, according to developers, were blamed for not following through on decisions, quoting out of an article in the Washington Post, abandoning features and throwing away work already done on them, micromanaging, pursuing certain elements of the game, and then losing interest and delegating them for others to finish. A process that was said to begin burning people out. So essentially, they were playing at being the developers. They were sauntering around and like, let's do this. I don't want to do that anymore. Throw that out. Let's start something else. I'm bored. You finish it. So these guys that apparently were so amazing that Activision had to keep them around, despite the fact they were a little bit handsy. And, the Cosby Suite guys, notorious for the crap that they were pulling, despite that, these guys were valuable. The Activision overlooked it. But clearly, they were a big reason why this game has already been delayed and why these people are now being crunched. These innocent developers are being crunched. Also, after their departure, they brought in Rod Ferguson, who is formerly of Epic and Irrational Games. And he was described as being parachuted in to BioShock's Infinite development and helped fix it. And he had a reputation for getting games that were in trouble across the finish line. That was apparently his, calling card. Like, I fix broken development and get things out on schedule. So they brought him in after Louis Barriga and Jesse McCree were fired off the project. And it was all just in a shit show condition. He joined the team in February 2020, and his big contribution to fixing this development process and getting it across the finish line was to launch a broadcast weekly Zoom meeting. And several hundred people would have to listen to him mixing the combination of addressing development issues that were legitimate with, like talk about movies and celebrities that he knew. That was his solution to fixing development. This is a quote from one of the people that worked for them during that time, a former employee. People got frustrated because we thought he was going to come in and fix the game. And when nothing happened, that's when you started to see massive turnover. So you had two guys that were play acting being developers and being bros instead. Then they bring in the fixer, and the fixer is just another bro who just loves to talk about all the celebrities he's met. And that's when people are like, yeah, I'm out. I'm out. And that's when they started to leave. Another factor that was cited is developers said that this actually caused even more people to leave and exacerbated the loss of developers, and more importantly, the institutional knowledge that they had that was leaving with them. Poor pay, unsatisfactory working conditions, two things we knew about, and morale. Obviously, that had to have been affected by first, lawsuits and, first off, the morale working under Louis Barriga and Jesse McCree. Then them getting fired because of this really horrible, massive, scandalous lawsuit. And then having this third guy come in that is just as big a joker as the other two. I would imagine that would affect morale. I would be a little discouraged myself if I was working on the game. And yeah, it didn't help that senior leadership changed both at Blizzard and at then Bobby Kotick and that whole shenanigans that they had. And on top of that, when the lawsuit landed, the EEOC lawsuit against Activision Blizzard King landed, what did Bobby Kotick do? We forget about this because we were we knew what was going on, so we didn't, anything that Bobby said was like, blah, 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 you're lying. But if you worked in the company, you heard it. Bobby Kotick, our Lord and Master, blamed the publisher, blamed Activision's falling stock price, which was due to the lawsuit because of his management. But he blamed delays of Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4. Talk about word of the year, gaslighting. He essentially gaslit everybody at Activision, at Blizzard, working on Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. You're the problem, not me, not my management, not my human resources department that fails to, look into complaints of harassment. No, it's because your games are delayed. Man, Diablo 2, I'm very, very conflicted because I was kind of interested in it. And I know a lot of people are very eager for it. And, yes, there are a lot of good people that are working on it, and those people shouldn't be penalized by low sales. But at the same time, I don't feel good about purchasing a game that was so abusive. And I don't know where to go with that. I don't want to buy Diablo 4, but I also don't want to penalize good people who worked on a great game if it's a great game. But I don't want to reward bad people who did everything they could to make themselves, you know, like earn some stripes in the bro crew and actually hurt the game and hurt the other people. Like, I don't want to reward evil. And honestly, there is so much evil that is wrapped up in this whole development, and it never seems to end. Just when you think you get to the bottom of the cesspool, there's always more cess in the pool. And I don't know what to do with this. I don't want to hurt innocents, but I also do not want to reward really shitty people. I don't want to reward Rod Ferguson. I don't want to reward Bobby Kotick. I don't want to reward Louis Barrigo or Jesse McCree, who might put this on their resume and claim that they were part of its success. No. So I don't know that I'm going to buy it, even if it is, even if it makes like pancakes and espresso every Sunday morning. I don't know that I will be buying it. Vice says you just crunch them and then they are so broken that they cannot stick around and you don't need to pay them the bonus. Yeah, you got to stick around a year in order to get the bonus. Oh, you left before a year because you can't take it anymore? Sorry, no bonus for you. Thanks for the game. Yeah, win-win. Yep. And you might think, oh, that's so low. There is nothing so low for Blizzard and Microsoft and Activision. No depths they won't plumb in order to make a tiny bit of money, to abuse people for free. Yay! Because they're expected to be thankful for dashing to the company door that companies should be paying for in the first place. Yeah, talking about the DoorDash. Yeah. Wow, what an insult. If you stick around, we'll give you $25 for meals if you work more than 10 hours. And beyond the fact, you have kids? Oh, your wife has to feed, or your wife or your husband has to be home to feed the kids every single night because you can't get home for dinner? Oh, well, I mean, you got some free chicken parm out of it. Yes, if no one buys the game, the innocent employees get hurt in a way. That's what Vice is saying. But as long as the company exists in that shape, an infinite amount of people get hurt. Yeah. Yeah. And that I think is hard. And you get hurt continuously. I don't think there's an ethical obligation to buy the game. Yeah. It's a terrible situation to be in, and feels a little bit like a hostage situation for me as an ethical gamer, that I don't want to reward an evil company, but I don't want to hurt the innocent employees of that evil company. And this is a situation where government has to step in. The EEOC has to step in. The FTC needs to be stepping in. But federal government is not stepping in on this. Not the FTC. Not FTC. What's the one that covers? It's not the EEOC. Is it the EEOC? Yeah, I think it's the EEOC. The EEOC needs to be stepping in. The feds are incapable or unwilling to step in on this case, even though California absolutely wants to. In fact, the feds are actually being confrontational to California about its will to pursue this case on the behalf of workers who were abused and in at least one case died because of the bullying and the toxic workplace for women and people of color. So, yeah, I don't know that I could even play this game without thinking about that. There's no way I could possibly have fun with this game. Watch out, Edie's giving the smackdown. I don't know. Do you think that you could buy Diablo 4 now? Having known and heard and watched and, listened to us talk about all the shit that happened during this game, not only with Blizzard, but also with Activision, the parent company. Could you play the game and not think about that? I couldn't play this game and not think about that poor woman who died. I don't want to say the word because, of course, demonetization thing. I already got enough problems with demonetization. Who did things that led to her own death. I don't know that I could play that game without thinking about that in the back of my head every single moment that I was playing that game. When I started it up, when I saw that splash screen, when I see the Blizzard logo come across the screen, I can't forget that. I can't forget the situation that caused her to be in that state, where parts of her anatomy were passed, pictures of parts of her anatomy were passed around at a Christmas party. I will let that sit. And that it led to her leading to the end of her own life. I will not forget that. I cannot forget the idea of the laughing that must have gone on during those cube crawls when they were assaulting women drunk in their cubicles. The laughing. I can't play that game without hearing it in my head. So yeah, I guess I answered my own question just now. Diablo 4. That is a no buy for me. Don't care what it does. Don't care how good it is. It's not going to be purchased by me. And I hope that maybe you might think about that and make an educated decision for yourself. Anyway, there's your smackdown for the day. Let's see. What else do I have? I have one other item. And there's very rarely, like every morning I wake up and I go through the news. I sit and scroll my Google News just to see what's kind of going on and wake up by, just reading what's going on in the world. And then very rarely do I see a headline that just makes me laugh, like lying in my bed half awake and I just start laughing out loud. Got one today, or got one this week. So this is a PSA for all of you. Let me get to it. Here it is. A mayor of Hawaii County has made an announcement this week. If you are aware that Mauna Loa has been erupting, that is the one of the Earth's biggest volcanoes. It is on, I believe, the main island of Hawaii. It's a big volcano. It's been dormant for something like 40 or 50 years, and it started erupting again this week. Fortunately, it looks like it's, calming down at the moment, and it hasn't killed anybody and hasn't threatened any structures yet. But still, it's a little scary when, one of the world's biggest volcanoes starts to erupt in your backyard. But the mayor of Hawaii County has asked people to stop coming to visit the Mauna Loa eruption and to stop throwing marshmallows into the volcano. I still can't. It still makes me laugh. I know. It's not funny. It is not funny at all. It's not. First off, it's dangerous to do. Second of all, it is absolutely disrespectful to the natives of Hawaii. To them, Mauna Loa very much is a sacred place. It is a sacred goddess in Hawaii culture. So it is culturally insensitive to throw marshmallows into the volcano. Still a little funny. Quote from the mayor of Hawaii, mayor of Hawaii County. We've been seeing people being really disrespectful, putting trash out there, throwing marshmallows into the lava. This is Mayor Mitch Roth, he said in a news conference covered by Hawaii News Now. Not only is that bad for the environment and people are trespassing, but it's disrespectful to Hawaiians and their love for Madame Pele and the culture of Hawaii. It's really bad. So we ask people to be respectful. According to the mayor, 17,000 cars have traveled the 4.5-mile lava route on Old Saddle Rose since the eruption started, which was what, like a week and a half ago. So yeah, if you go, it's not funny, Freddie. It's not funny. Don't throw marshmallows into Mauna Loa. It is disrespectful. It's bad for the environment. And it's not funny at all. Is that really a thing? Oh, unalive herself. I like that. I'm gonna have to use that as the euphemism in future days. But is it really a thing about throwing marshmallows into Mauna Loa? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, that is a thing. So that means that PP caught people doing that. Also means that who knows how many they didn't catch. Yeah. If you think it's not funny. If you think that volcano smells a little bit of s'mores, that's real. The volcano smells of s'mores at the moment. No reports of anybody actually throwing in graham crackers and Hershey bars also. Maybe that's next week. Marshmallow stocks will tumble. Yeah, I mean, it is good for the marshmallow makers, but bad for the environment and everybody else. Keep telling yourself, oh, it's not funny. This is not funny. It's culturally disrespectful and bad for the environment. Who was the first person that thought that? Who is the first person that said, you know what I want to, that's the thing. It wasn't just one person. It was a lot of people, enough that they had to have a press conference to say, please stop throwing marshmallows in the volcano. So more than one person thought this up. It would have never occurred to me if I was there to go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go get a bag of marshmallows and throw it in. It would not have occurred to me. But apparently it wasn't just one person, but a lot of people came to that same conclusion that this was a thing that they wanted to do. You're supposed to throw shiny things. I've heard the Moana soundtrack. Oh, okay. I actually never saw Moana. I haven't seen a Disney movie I've never seen Aladdin. I don't watch Disney movies. I don't watch a lot of movies in general, but I really don't watch Disney movies. I think the last Disney movie I saw was a Pixar movie, and that was Incredibles 2? Yeah, there was The Incredibles 2. Yeah, I saw The Incredibles 2. Yeah, and Edna is by far my favorite character of all time. Bitter says, picture me gleeful as I tossed. I could see that. I couldn't possibly agree. Glazed marshmallow then. That would make it shiny, just give it a nice coating of, hard candy shell. So yes, if you go to Hawaii, please do not throw marshmallows in the volcano. Thanks. All right. On that note, Nick will be back tomorrow. Oh my God, I did it. I did a solo show. How was it? Was it weird not having people back? Was it weird just hearing nothing but me rant on about how much I hate Blizzard? Um, I would never do that, Bitter says, but I'd think about it. AC Ray says it worked. Oh, good. Glad to know. Glad to know after what? A decade, almost a decade and a half, I can actually do the show by myself, not be terrified. Was it 10,000 hours? I should add it up. See if we actually have 10,000 hours of like expertise on this. But thank you for being here for the very first and maybe hopefully the only solo show we've had ever in the history of GameHounds. And it wasn't a solo show. It was also a group show. It's just me talking right now, and this is my face, but all of you are part of this discussion. Bitters and AC Wraith and Chunderbox and Vice and is anybody else in here? Yeah, whoever else is in. And if you're just watching, thank you so much. If I missed your name, I'm sorry. But thanks for being here. And next week we're going to have our regular show with Nick. It's going to be hopefully a lot more of what you're used to. And not only that, we will hear the story of Nick trying to park his car in LA because apparently this is a thing. Let's see if Nick sent me an email. No, he didn't send me a text. So whatever he's doing, he must be having a good time. Oh, and also Andrew, Chaos, thank you for being here on the show. Am I going to play anything tonight? I don't know. I sort of want to start a new Bannerlord, Mountain Blade Bannerlord, because I know so much more about how to play it. That being said, it's been a while and I had only just learned how to play. So I have to reteach myself the stuff that I forgot. The other thing that I've been thinking about is I guess that there are a ton of new mods for like user-made mods for Crusader Kings. Turn it into like Game of Thrones. Like you can actually have a counselor that's a horse now. There's a bunch of other interesting mods, and I really haven't delved deep into these mods at all. But I'm actually, now that I have a PC so that most of these mods will work, I'm actually thinking of kind of diving into that deep pool of user created mods that do things to your game that make it freaking ludicrous, because I'm expert enough at Crusader Kings that now we're going to get silly, and I'm looking forward. AC Wraith makes a link to the complete guide to LA street parking rules. Thank you so much. I'll make sure Nick gets that. But yeah, maybe tonight, definitely tomorrow. I'm definitely going to stream something tomorrow. Don't know what, but tonight I'm going to be meeting up with a friend and having a couple of Irish coffees that he's got something he really wants me to try. So I'm going to give it a shot. I also have to make fruitcake because I started, it's a multi-day process to do fruitcake. I started it yesterday, so I am like committed to doing it today. So everyone, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. And let's close this out. You've been listening to GameHounds. GameHounds episode 662. We recorded the show on December 11th, 2022. I've been Edie Sellers. With me has been no one but everybody in the chat room. Speaking of which, thank you to everyone in the chat room who is doing this show live. We do record the show every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and on Twitch. On YouTube, we are GameHounds Vids, VIDS. On Twitch, we are the GameHounds. Please feel free to join us at any time for this show. We would love to have you join us, especially over the Christmas season, because, I love to get together with you guys. Our website is gamehounds.net. Our email is gamehounds@gmail.com. We do record the show live, but we record it doing it live, but we also post it as an audio podcast, a regular traditional podcast. You can find that podcast as GameHounds Podcast. It is on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Android devices, Alexa devices, Google devices. Just say play GameHounds Podcast. All of that stuff should all come up. If you listen to us as a podcast, please do me a favor. Go to wherever you picked it up and leave some feedback. If you're watching this or watch this later on YouTube or Twitch, please also give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Give us a thumbs down if you didn't like it. That's fine too. Leave a comment in the comment section. I absolutely check our comments. If you ever have anything that you want to check up on anything that I spoke about, AC Wraith is our link bitch, provides all the links for everything that we talk about in the comment section of both Twitch and YouTube. So go there if you need some background information or any links. Speaking of links, also go to YouTube or Twitch. You will find our links to our Discord. We would love to have you join our Discord. Great community there. And of course, don't forget our Patreon, which is patreon.com/GameHounds. Would love to have you. $1 a month, all we ask, just to keep us going. Thanks so much, everyone in the chat room. Thank you so much. And we will be back next week with Nick. Have a great one, everyone. Bye-bye. And the podcast is out. We're still here in the live chat. So yeah, it worked. Go figure. I did it. Thanks for being here for that. That was fun. Never thought when I woke up this morning, I did not think I would be doing a solo show, but I'm so glad that you were here for it. Yay, moment of truth. Edie doesn't suck. It only took 13 years, 14 years for it to happen. So everyone have a great night. Please be safe. If you're going to be out and about, the drivers at this time of year are fucking idiots because they're all goddamn drunks because they're all, especially on weekends, coming back from fucking Christmas parties. So please be very careful out there, even as a pedestrian. Because the drunks are no joke. It's absolutely happening. Not that many of you, so we need to keep all of you alive for 2023. And yeah, if you ever have any feedback or anything, please let me know. I'm in Discord. I usually have it up and I at least hear a bleep bleep when it's happening. And sometimes I have a chance to answer because I'm at work, but sometimes I don't. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for being here for this. Letting the stress come off of me because I'm a little stressed out by doing that by myself. But I'm going to go reward myself with an Irish coffee. Good night, everyone. Bye.